I just wanted to get your take. What was your reaction to last night, and did you wish you were there in person?
Just looking at that chamber and that president, it was unfortunately a specter of an America that is weak, and one in which the path ahead is more big government. It was not an encouraging speech, and the President Biden does not appear to get it. The notion you just mentioned of creating jobs through massive government expenditures has never worked in America. I mean, it works as a temporary fix when there's a depression or something like that, and you have nothing else. But the notion that government can make the best, most efficient decisions for allocation of resources resulting in highest employment, it just never happened. Not in America, and frankly, it's never happened successfully anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's really interesting because, they're claiming that they want to create jobs, but, they're also pushing this as infrastructure, but they want to define infrastructure as whatever they want. And now he's putting Kamala in charge. But, like we showed in that intro, didn't that seem a little familiar? They also tasked her with leading the crisis at the border. I feel like there's so many things wrong with this statement.
The point about Vice President Harris deserves comment on the two things he said. So she's going to be responsible for overseeing the replacement at government expense of every federal government expense of every lead pipe in the country. I can only imagine. It's something she knows nothing at all about. And to your point, the big crisis that in over an hour of speaking last night, President Biden never made a comment about is the border crisis, where in March we had 172,000 illegal crossings, and we have this flood of unaccompanied minors through one entry route and family units with small children through another entry route being quickly processed, illegally entering the United States, processed by our Border Patrol under Biden administration policy, and sent around the country. He had nothing to say about that other than to express his support for amnesty legislation that's been pending in the Congress. It's clueless beyond belief.
It really is. And what did you make of his calls to pass bipartisan immigration reform? So I know Mitch McConnell, he said that there's no hope for Republicans supporting anything that doesn't actually address the crisis at the border. But they have interesting ways of trying to go about this. I know that Democrats are now pushing for him to raise the cap of refugees entering the country. First, the crisis was so bad that Biden, went back and said, we're going to actually retain what Trump said. And then he faced pushback. And then they were like, actually, we take that back. And now they're trying to push it.
Right. And all of that, all of the policy about setting the level of migrants allowed legally is almost irrelevant, because what we're seeing in those massive numbers I made reference to, those are all people who are entering the country illegally, and they're being received and spread and passed on into the country. So the only plan suggested by the Biden administration, there's no plan to tamp that down or to control the illegal immigration. What Biden and Democrats in Congress want to do is bulk up the capacity of immigration authorities to bring the illegals in and send them out into the country more rapidly. The only thing the president talked about last night on the subject is, other than, as you say, suggesting support for big amnesty plans, was to suggest that the root problems for this are in Central America. Well, how is the United States going to solve root problems in Central America, particularly if those countries' law-abiding people are in working class are emptying from there into the United States? It just is, and he also pointed out, he said this was done in the Obama administration. It obviously didn't work. And so it's just like a hapless cluelessness. And I'm afraid it's very dangerous to the United States of America and our success as a society.
Yeah, it is dangerous. Do you think that it's realistic for this bulking up of capacity to pass through? I mean, I just saw this stat that said that, ICE arrests have gone down 60% under this administration. So if we increase the amount of people coming in, but decrease, the amount of control, I can't even imagine what's going to happen to our country.
Well, I was down at the border the first week of April. I saw the chaos there. On the plane trip, leaving from McAllen, Texas, flying to Dallas first and then back to Charlotte, there were 20 illegals on the plane coming with me on the first trip, 3 on the second leg of the trip. This is happening every day. And, well, to one question you just asked, the administration does have considerable resources at its command to expand this pipeline to bring in illegals. But it's the opposite of what a government ought to be doing when it's charged with enforcing the law. One example, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which receives these unaccompanied children, holds them and feeds them and cares for them for a period of time until they can be sent elsewhere. There's 16,000 beds on the border for those minors. It's going to ramp up to 60,000 under existing plans, and those beds cycle every 24 days, meaning the kids move on out. So think about that. 60,000 unaccompanied minors, can't speak the language, no real support structure in the United States, and the plan of the Biden administration is to pump them out on a continuous and growing flow into the country.